Welcome to Story Hour, a virtual meetup hosted by Wolf and Heron.
When I thought of identity in terms of this context, my mind immediately went to my sexual identity. And I think it's because I'm fascinated by the complexity of sexuality and how much easier it is in today's world to be exploratory and to be open. And that's not to say that there isn't progress still to be made, of course, but I do feel like in my lifetime that I do feel like there is this general openness in my lifetime that didn't exist before me. And so the story actually starts a lot earlier than I initially expected it to. Back in grade school when I was like a kid, and my female best friend and I would like fool around. And we would, play the traditional roles like the boyfriend and the girlfriend or the husband and the wife, but we'd like make out and roll around on our bed. And it was something just like normal between us, and we grew out of it, but we never talked about it. And I remember the one thing about it was like not getting caught and not talking about it. And that was very much a thing. And so as I've gotten older, I've just been curious, and I'm mostly attracted to men. Like, there's no denying that. I've been living with myself for 27 years. Like, I know that to be true about myself, but there have also been times in my life where I have like undoubtedly been attracted to a woman. And as I've gotten older, I've been like, okay, how do I explore this in a way that's not shameful and not in a way that I like give leverage to that guilt or confusion and just allow myself to feel it? So I met Jessie when I visited Costa Rica. I was on a gap year with like a bunch of other kids, and we were stopping at this Rancho Mastatal. It's a permaculture ranch. And she was an apprentice that was working at the ranch and living there for a few months. And I just noticed her right away. She had this aura about her, and she made me nervous. And she had this snarly brown hair and these freckles all over her face and a nose ring. She had these green-gray eyes that looked like storm clouds. I just was really drawn to her. She was super cool. And when we got settled into the ranch, she was like, hey, who wants to wake up at 5 a.m. to milk goats with me? And I like shot my hand up like this. It was like an out of body experience. I was like, okay, I guess I'm volunteering. And she was like, okay, meet me at the chicken coop at 5 a.m. tomorrow. And so I wake up the next morning at 4:30 and I rinse my face with cold water, like so cold that I'm like, my whole face is numb. And I'm patting down like the bags under my eyes because I'm like trying to look nice. Like I wanted to like not look tired. And so I meet Jessie at the chicken coop, and I'm like just feeling these things that are just not normal to me. And she led the way down this wet, narrow path, and it was very muddy because it had just rained. And she's wearing these proper farm boots, and I'm wearing these $2 Old Navy rubber flip-flops, and they're getting stuck in the mud behind me. And so I have to rip it out of the mud, and it's flicking up on the backs of my like legs. And I'm just praying she doesn't turn around and see like me not doing well in this environment at all. And so we finally get to the goats, and she asks me to hold a bundle of wheatgrass while she, for Jane, one goat, and while she milks Jackie, the other goat. And she used her thumb and forefinger to squeeze, bringing the palm and fingers together. And she did this so effortlessly. And I don't know if you've ever tried to milk goats, but it's hard. And when she finished, she looked up at me. She's like, do you want some? And I was like, do I want some what? She said, milk. And she said, and she motioned me to kneel beside her. And I did. I was like, sure, I'll do whatever you ask me to. And Jackie's teats were like really uncomfortably close to my face. And she asked if I was ready. And I said, yes. And I opened my mouth, and she shot one lengthy squirt of goat milk into my mouth. And it sort of slipped down my throat, and I kind of choked, but tried to play it really cool. And we walked back to the chicken coop, and that's where we parted ways. And I said an awkward goodbye, and I replayed the whole thing in my head for like hours and hours and hours on end. And like eventually I left Jessie, and I left the ranch, and like my heart didn't break because I wasn't in love with Jessie, but I was like in admiration of her, in infatuation of her, or like it was a desire to be seen the way I had seen her. And I think what I love most about being a woman who was confident in her own identity and her own sexuality is that I felt the freedom to feel however I wanted to feel with her, without shame and without guilt and without it being secretly infiltrated by traditions and norms. And with Jessie, I was just being myself. And that's it.
Yay! That was awesome.